Got it. I'm leaving.
All right. Thanks for tuning in, Shifty Industry. We are all present and accounted for. Matt, Pat, yours truly, Timmy. Closing out episode 43, part 2. We are going to hit you with another fresh new segment of ours, Tales from the Walk-In. And boy, it is fresh. It's steaming. It's freshman fresh. It is. This is our sophomore episode.
Steaming.
This is the true number 2. We'll see.
Like ranch on a wall.
That's right. We're gonna see what happens with this. But in order to do this, we had to bring in some brass. We're bringing a veteran, chef, owner, operator, the world famous Sweet Onion Restaurant in beautiful Waynesville, North Carolina, Doug Weaver.
Thank you.
What's going on,
Thank
Dougie?
you.
Yes,
Nothing.
we'll dub in the applause.
That's fine. It's Sunday, which is my Saturday. So
Sweet.
pretty much just day drinking, you know.
Right on. What you drinking? Some IPAs?
These are Gaelic ales from the Highland Brewery over here in Asheville, North Carolina.
Delicious.
Oh, nice.
Delicious.
And some Woodford.
Oh, there you go. I like it. I've got my non-bourbon drink in my bourbon cup. Saving myself for the weekend. Before we get in, Doug, like I said, we had to bring in a veteran for this one. I think when I mean veteran, I mean of the show here, Doug. I think you and I go back much further than I think anyone we've even thought of having on here. You and I are almost at 30 years. You realize that? It's kind of scary.
Yeah, I do, and I
say.
don't know if you realize it right now, but today is September 11th, and where were you September 11th?
I was asleep, and I awoke to a banging on my door, and it was you.
That's right.
That said,
get the hell out of bed.
I'm gonna gas up the Bronco, and we're gonna red dawn this motherfucker.
Exactly. Yeah.
And thank God
That
we
was
didn't
21.
21 years ago.
Yeah.
Well, that was yeah. And I'm gonna just give the listeners a little bit of background here. I'm gonna tell a story about how you and I met. That was in 1995. Serendipitously, we both applied for a cook position at the same restaurant in Denver, Colorado, the Wynkoop
Brewing Company. Yep.
And we both got hired, and we were both invited to attend a round table orientation.
Andy Bell.
We did not know each other, mind you. This is the day we met. So there's a bunch of scruffy stoners sitting around a table, and it kind of it was a little intimidating. It was at that time. This was the largest brew pub in North America. They were doing pretty well, so we're excited to be there. But they went around the table and they said, "Hey, we're going to go around, and everyone just introduce themselves." And they get through a couple of guys and a gal, and they get to Doug, and Doug says, "Yeah, my name's Doug Weaver. I'm from Sarasota, Florida." And
yeah.
I was like, "That's weird. I'm from Sarasota, Florida. That's weird." And then he goes to guy sitting next to Doug, and he says, "Yeah, my name's Scotty P. Scott Peterson. I'm also from Sarasota, Florida." And I said, "What are the odds of what the hell's going on here?" And they get to me, and I said, "Well, you're not gonna fucking believe this, but I gave him money. I said, I also am from Sarasota, Florida." And everybody's like, "Is these guys fucking with us? Like, this is kind of weird." But anyway, we all got hired. We all ended up working together. We're all from the same hometown.
Know the same people.
We all went to the same parties, hung out with the same people, bought
Didn't
pot
know
from
each
the
other?
same guys, went to the same school, went to the same fuck up school, went to, and never knew each other. And we've been friends.
And we applied the same day, yeah.
Ever since. That was almost 30 years ago. It's insane.
Crazy.
But how are things in Waynesville?
Well, things are good. Got chewed out by a man in a wheelchair last week, and didn't really care for that very much. The the tourists getting a little crazy around here, you know,
Oh, man,
Include-
that might be everywhere, unfortunately.
including the handicap.
Well,
Well, this guy came in and he was waiting with his family. There's 5 of them, and my business partner Dan said, "All right, you know, the wait's about 45 minutes." And about the 45-minute mark, the hostess says to Dan, says, "We got a table opening up." And Dan says to the hostess, he says, "Well, this isn't going to work. That table that you're talking about is not going to work because we have this wheelchair. So we're going to send them at a different table because of the wheelchair. And then that's going to be about another 10 minutes for that table to be available, you know." Anyway, a member of this guy's party heard Dan say that it was going to be an additional, you know, whatever, 5-10 minutes because of the wheelchair. They got seated, they sat and ate their whole meal. And the whole time the guy in the wheelchair is stewing that we had made him wait longer because he was in a wheelchair. And
what was wrong with the other table? Was it a high top or like?
well,
up on
yeah,
a
it was
platform?
a booth. It was, you know, it was a really long booth, you know, and the
Yeah,
wheelchair
yeah.
on the end would have just been right in the middle of the walkway and shit.
Yeah, so
And it
just
was
didn't
only
work.
like about 5 minutes. It was like no big deal at all, you know.
you were trying to actually, you know, take care of the guy.
No, make this guy's life better. Yeah, you know what I mean. And anyway, he sits there and he gets a couple scotches in him, you know. And at the end of the meal, he wheels up to the host stand, and Dan says, "How was your meal? You know, how's everything?" The guy says, "You're a fucking asshole." And Dan's like, what? And the guy's like, "You're a fucking asshole." And he's like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "The fact that you hate handicapped people makes you an asshole." And he is like,
It would.
explained it. He's like, "I don't know what you're talking about." You know, and the guy starts telling him, like, "I know you made me wait longer for my table because I'm in a wheelchair." And he's like, "Well, yeah, I made you wait longer for the, you know, but it was because you couldn't fit at the other table." And the guy, that dude must have called Dan an asshole, a fucking asshole, probably about 25 times. And he had like a 25-year-old daughter that was kind of on the side, like, "Yeah, you're an asshole." You know? And then after he called him an asshole like 20 times, he started like wheeling around our waiting area, like doing circles, you know? And everybody that would walk in, he'd go, "They hate handicapped people. Get out of here," right?
like
And he just kept circling.
like Paralympic basketball circles. Like,
Yeah. And like aggressively telling people, "Leave here now. They hate handicapped people."
Gotta throw down like a spike strip or something.
Oh, well, eventually we just grabbed the back of the chair and just pushed him out, you know? But yeah, no, that's how it's going here in Waynesville, you know? World's going to hell in a handbasket, and you know, we're carrying the son of a bitch.
well, yeah, I don't know. We've been doing this a long time. You and I have seen some pretty funny shit on the lighter side of things. I can imagine some of the stories you might have since our days. I mean, we could revert.
I mean, you talking about like just the restaurant industry, or like cops kicking in your door kind of funny story?
No, I mean related to the F&B industry. Yeah. I mean, you might have been
both sound interesting for sure.
you might have been passed out and asleep in the restaurant.
You want me
I know
to
that's
tell you
happened.
the story about the time I killed the guy that killed my brother?
Sure.
No. No, but
Allegedly.
I don't know, but you know, it's a vague question, honestly. When you ask somebody, tell me a funny story about the restaurant industry, because it breaks down to last week, front of the house stories, back of the house stories, my career stories, you know, ex-wife stories. You know what I mean? Like, it's really quite a few categories, you know?
Oh, there's a ton of them.
There's a ton of them. It's vague. It's a vague question, you know?
Well, give it. You just brought up funny career stories of yours. Give us one of those.
Well, I'll tell you what, man. Tim Irwin and I, we used to work out at the Wolfgang Puck Cafe out there in Denver, Colorado, and
That was when that was all the rage.
and we worked with this fucker Hosea. Remember Hosea?
I do.
And he went on to win the the greatest chef or whatever, the top chef.
Yeah.
He won the top chef. Anyway, I was talking and we worked with that dude one. That motherfucker talked, man. Anyway, I was working with him one day and he was cutting snow peas. And he cut the end of his finger off. And I mean like about the whole entire nail bed. And his end of his finger sitting there on the cutting board. I picked it up and I had it in my hand. And I could see the vein in it. And he was pretty flipping out at the time. And I said to him, I was like, don't worry, dude. I've got the end of your finger. I'm going to go ahead and put this in some ice and we're going to go to the fucking hospital. I got you, bro. And anywho, so put his finger on ice. We left in my Ford Aerostar minivan, which was super cool back then. And I took him to the emergency room in Denver, Colorado. And when you go to the emergency room in Denver, Colorado, it's not like, it's a pretty big city. So you got to go through a security checkpoint to get into that thing. And Hosea, he's got his hand all wrapped up. I got his finger and he's got his backpack. We're going through the security line, just like you would at like an airport or some shit, And the dude was going through his bag and he's got about an ounce of weed and a bong in his freaking backpack.
He didn't know how long he was going to be there.
This before Denver was super cool, right? This is back in the day, like that shit's illegal as fuck. He had no idea they were going to search the shit. And, there was a cop, he was like, all right, go get your fingers sewed back on and when you're done, I'll talk to you, And he ended up getting, popped for that, So
you got two headaches.
As far as career goes, you could be a complete dumbass and still win Top Chef, I don't really think it has anything to do with smarts.
You could be a four-fingered moron.
Get your finger, chop off your finger and get arrested for weed.
Yeah, like, come on, man. You could have left the shit in my back, in my Aerostar.
Well, I wonder why he forgot. I mean, that was a funny time. That was when the Wolfgang Puck Cafe opened, and I think I was on respite from the Wind Coop there. I needed to get out of there. I think this was like
it was your idea that's why I got the job.
97, maybe a couple years after that. I can't remember, something like that. Late 90s, mid to late 90s. But you remember the Frenchman? There was Guy Laurent.
Yeah.
We would come in the morning, and Wolfgang Puck's sous chef would be passed out. He would have slept there behind the bar. He's an old Frenchman, and he'd come stumbling out from behind the bar, and Doug and I'd be standing there, and he'd be all drunk, and he'd say, hello, Bill. Hey, hello, Tom.
Yeah, Tom, that was.
They're like, Doug and Tim. Oh, yes, it's late.
No, it's early as fuck, dude.
It's like 5:30 in the morning, dude. Yeah,
that would happen often.
At least once a week. Yeah, probably.
Yeah, pretty much.
And then Wolfgang Puck himself. I was working saute, and he pushed me and burned me, and then called him a monkey. Told me I cook like a monkey. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah. Wolfgang Puck. That's Tim's claim to fame. Wolfgang Puck told him he cooks like a monkey.
Yeah.
I was there. I saw it.
Yeah. Why you use this tongs? Use the spoon. You're too big to be in here.
You're too big. You're too big on the knife.
You cook like a monkey.
Yeah.
We've had a thing with Frenchmen. We had a Frenchman at the Wind Coop that turned all the power off after he got fired. His name was Serge LaFrance, and then he became Power Surge because he turned all the power off after he got fired.
Serge, I forgot about that.
Walked out and flipped the breaker.
Yeah, on like a Friday night, 3-story brew house. Yeah. Ha.
Matty P and I were walking home one night.
Anyway,
from the from the wing coop, and he walked up and he kicked like a transformer, like a big power box. I don't know why he kicked it. He just kicked it. But the second he did it, the entire power for the entire lower downtown of Denver went out. And it was that way all night long. For whatever reason, Scott kicked out the power of lower downtown. It was pretty hilarious.
The good old
Anywho.
days. Yeah.
Good old days.
Well, hell. Got anything going on? Go ahead.
I was trying to think of like your thing's called Tales from the Walk-In, and I was actually trying to think of things that actually happened in the walk-in. And
we always used to have safety meetings in the walk-in.
well, yeah, exactly. I worked at the Cafe Garden Stackery Deck down in Sarasota, Florida, and the exhaust of the walk-in freezer, it wasn't on top of the building, it was on the back of the building. And a cop was walking by the back of the building, and at the same time someone was having a safety meeting in the freezer, and basically just blew the shit right in the cop's face. And the cop came into the fucking kitchen, walked into the walk-in, and arrested the guy in the fucking freezer. So
that's cold.
that is very cold. But yeah, I'm trying to think of like a happy story, something good that happened in a walk-in, and I can't really think of anything. Just a bunch of sad shit.
Well, maybe a line cook dropped a tub of feta cheese and actually cleaned it up.
That would be about
didn't walk away.
And got all of it.
I walked in one time, found a guy in the fetal position, laying down, crying. And I had to talk him out of that shit, like, hey man, what are you doing? I just can't, I was just like, anyway, he was getting off the pills and shit, but fuck.
That is a happy story.
Going in to get some ranch, and I gotta talk a dude off the ledge, like they're all like that, like the time I dumped the gravy on my head, like,
you ever go into the walk-in and catch somebody drinking out of the gallon jug of milk?
I know where you're going with this. Fucking with that dude at the wing coop, the Javier dude.
The names have been changed to protect the innocent, but
yeah, right.
He had a big white, powdered donut ring around his mouth, and he vehemently denied drinking out of it with a jug of open milk.
I didn't drink no milk, man.
Yeah, I'm on this new medication that makes me my mouth really dry. Yeah.
I had to fire a Buddhist last week. This guy, I got a dishwasher, and right now, that's probably the best thing that ever happens to me, is that when I hire a new dishwasher, it's like Christmas in July, it's just amazing, and this kid, he comes in and he brings me a, pretty good looking resume, and he speaks fluent Spanish. He's a pretty good amount of writings about his religious beliefs. And he's a certified yoga instructor, but, he just wants to wash dishes, and I'm thinking, this is it, this is what I've been looking for, and I talked to the kid. He looks like a blonde-headed Chris Cordell. It's the weirdest shit. And I immediately bonded with him because of that. I think I was like, this is it, and he's like, I'm just looking for something super chill. I don't want to have to think a lot about it. I just want, and I'm paying our dishwashers, $65 an hour these days. So, he was okay with that, So I get him in there, and every time I talk to the guy, he's just the most nicest, like, hey man, how you doing? Can I just thank you for this job? Everybody's so good to me here, But then every time, like, the next morning, all the line guys would come to me and like, that dude's a douchebag, and like, he's hitting on all the 16-year-old hostess girls, he's trying to give them Xanax and shit, and I'm like, what, I got this 19-year-old line cook, and I went to the beach for a week and I came back and I walk up on the line. I said, hey guys, how's everything going? My 19-year-old line cook says, everything's great except for the new dishwasher is a pedophile. So as a restaurant owner, you got to take notice of these comments, you know.
My
So,
God.
so I said to him, I'm like, elaborate, you know, like, what do you know, you can't just stop with that, you know. And then he starts going into how he's, you know, been hitting on all of our 16-year-olds. We got about 3 16-year-olds that work for us, one of them being my own daughter, and how he'd been just kind of sketchy, you know, and I, you know, I just, you know, oh, you know, I had to define what an actual pedophile was, you know, and I had to let the guy know that, you know, is this a you know, an official, you know, complaint of sexual harassment, you know, that kind of shit. No, I just want to let you know that dude's a fucking pedophile. I'm like, again. Anyway, and then, you know, you're defending the pedophile, you know, because God damn it, God gave you this dishwasher, you know. Anyway,
I hear you. It's good help's hard to find. I mean,
you know what I mean?
Is he on some sort of registry? I mean,
well, yeah, you know, but I'm telling you, he's a very good looking dude too. Like I said, he's a blonde-headed Chris Cornell. Anyway, so the other day, I think it was Thursday, he comes into work, you know, and I'm trying. I feel like maybe the guys haven't given him a shot, you know, because he's so good looking, you know, and maybe you know, they're just being dickheads, you know. So I try to make some small talk with him. He comes in. I said, you know, so you know, you're into that yoga thing, you know. I'm like, I get you, man. Like sunflower sutra and shit. I'm like, I do that shit, you know. I'm like downward dogging and shit, you know. And he looks at me and he's like, my yoga has transformed more into kung fu. and I'm like, what? You know? I'm like, tell me more, you know? He's like, you don't realize, but yoga and kung fu are basically the same thing. And I'm like, get the fuck out of here, you know? You know? And he's like, no. And I'm telling you right now, if people don't get off my ass, I'm going to use some of my yoga to kick their ass. And that's what I was like, man, tonight's going to be a weird night, man. Like I knew, like just his like turning the yoga talk into like kung fu talk. Like I'm like, this ain't going to go good, you know? But, you know, I just like, I like to let things happen, you know, and I like to see what the boys do for themselves, you know? And I came into work the next day, Friday morning, you know, and they're like, yeah, Gabriel, he don't work for us no more. He couldn't handle it. And anyway, they got a big fight and he left and everything. Anyway.
You had to do some yoga?
Friday afternoon, he comes back to work. He comes in at like 3:00 when he's supposed to work. And everybody's like, Doug, Gabriel's here. And I'm like, what the fuck? All right, no big deal, you know? And I go out and the dude's just like, he's like doing like a prayer thing. And he's like, I am so sorry that I had this outburst and shit, you know? And I just had to be like, man, I just don't think we're there on your journey quite yet, you know? I literally, that's how I fired him. You're not at the place in your journey for this restaurant. Anyway, he got it.
And now you're out of the dishwasher.
I'm like, I know. I told him. I said, maybe grow a little more. You know, go spend a couple months. You know, figuring your shit out, man. Anyway, fucking Buddhist.
Yeah, yoga is pretty much kung fu, huh?
Yeah. No, it was.
Man, I guess you fucking learn something new every day.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I think it might be his own brand of whatever that is.
No, it was just he was. I think he was like he was like on some kind of weird pill cocktail.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna pray that we get you another dishwasher, and because that's about what it's come down to these days.
Well, I'll tell you, Tim. I got this guy Jacob. Excuse me. He's cousin of my wife. They just moved up here from Florida. For the 2 months leading to him moving up here, he was talking about once he gets here, he wants to wash dishes. They had a really good restaurant, and he wants to learn the ways of the restaurant. And he's, healthy kid and fairly intelligent. So I was looking forward to that. And I kept telling my, works, just my people were getting pretty rough there around the end of June, I'm like, Jacob's coming. Once Jacob comes, he's gonna pick up these dish shifts. Once he picks up them dish shifts, then blah 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 blah. Everything's gonna be all right. So that's the way, my job nowadays is basically just like a prophet of the better days to come, And so the kid gets up there and he works for me for 2 days, and he's amazing. One of the best natural 18-year-old dishwashers I've ever seen in my life. I mean, he's just getting along with everybody. He's slamming that shit out like an hour before close. He's going up on the line, grabbing all the shit to get, let's get out of here. Let's not be here until midnight kind of thing. And I'm just like, oh, and like
The clouds open up.
Oh, he comes to me and he's like, hey, man, I got this surgery on my hand that I have to get done, and I'm going to be out for 6 weeks. And I was like, what the fuck, dude? You didn't tell me that. Why didn't you tell me that before I fucking hired you? He's like, dude, I was going to the doctor. I thought they were going to put me on some physical therapy. I didn't realize they were going to say I couldn't work for 6 weeks. But I can't work for 6 weeks. Anywho, so that was 6 weeks ago. I just talked to the kid today. He told me I got another week. I got to wait. But
he'll be back, and you'll be in dish pit nirvana. He'll have you. He'll have you all taken care of.
No, going in October, feeling really, really, really stoked about my crew right now. As far as
well, you got a little vacation coming up. Sounds like I'm going to be seeing you in Tybee next week.
You ought to come down. Yeah,
man.
We had a situation where we had a buster out front, Wyatt, and one of our new front of the house managers talked to him like he was a piece of shit, and he didn't like that one bit. So he was like, Doug, I want to wash dishes. I don't want to work out front anymore. So he's picked up every lunch shift. We're only for 5 days a week now. So he's working every lunch shift. So I got a Tuesday through Saturday lunch dishwasher. I got Jacob coming back. I'm feeling pretty good about it.
Time to hit the beach. Time to hit the beach. Well, Doug,
I'm gonna have to.
I was gonna say I appreciate you coming on and saying hey and sharing some stories. We're gonna wrap up the episode 2 of Tales from the Walk-In, and I'm gonna ride this one out, and I'm gonna play some tunes from, and just like some of our other guests on here, you and I share a musical background together as well. So I like to wind that in there as we ride off into the sunset for these things. So I'm gonna let you pick and choose that as we wind down this episode 2 of Tales from the Walk-In. But we've got this. We're gonna have this on the end of part 2 of episode 43, and then I think moving forward, these are gonna be a little harder to get to. I think we're gonna make some adjustments to our Patreon page, and these are gonna be up there exclusively. So if you want to catch some more episodes of this moving forward, you can get on our Patreon page and check out some of that stuff. But until then, we'll see you next time in Tales from the Walk-In. Thanks, Doug.
See you, my man. Love you.
Thanks, Doug, man. Appreciate it.
Yep.
Oh.